Over the last few months, I've been getting super deep into Claude code, and I want to understand what slash commands were. There's sort of this thing in the back of my mind that I always sort of knew about, meaning I kind of used them, but I never actually sat down and tried to understand them until my business partner Mark showed me what it was capable of. Then we were in Berlin and he was showing all these different commands, and I realized, okay, this is actually something that I need to understand, not just something I want to have in the back of my mind. So in this video, I'm going to show you what slash commands actually are. I'm going to show you the list of all the existing ones, how to use them, and most importantly, how to make your own slash commands. So let's get into it. First things first, what is a slash command? From VS Code, I'm just going to open up Claude, and you're probably very aware that you can do stuff like maybe model to change the model. There's two ways that you can talk to Claude. You can either give it an instruction saying like right there, right? And you can just talk to it. You can start your sentence off with a slash, and this will actually open up a bunch of different actions that you can take within Claude. And the way I like to think about it is you can either talk to the machine, which is what we just did, or you can change the settings of the machine, or which is what the slash command is. So for example, if I want to talk, the most popular slash command I believe is probably the model one, which I'm going to show you right now. If I do slash model, then I press enter, now it'll ask me what model of Claude do I want to use. You're probably familiar with Sonnet, Haiku, and Opus. Well, you can change which of these models you use by using the command slash model. In this case, I'm using the default, but let's say for example, I want to use maybe a lighter model. I'm going to have a bunch of back and forth, and I can just switch to Sonnet, and now I have officially switched to Sonnet. If I do model once again, I'm now using Sonnet, but I can go back to default. That's the most common slash command, and that's the one that I primarily used. Now that we understand, have a general understanding of what slash command is, let's talk about all. And where I want to start off is by using the Claude code documentation, which you can visit by going to code.claude.com/doc/en/commands. And here you see all of the different commands and what commands actually are. The ones that we're interested in though are all of these, right? And you'll find a bunch: background, batch, branch. By the way, this is a really useful one. But essentially what this one does is, let's say I'm having a conversation with Claude and it's working in the background on something, but I have a question about my project. However, I don't want to interrupt it, and I don't want the conversation to be steered in a different direction, so I just want an answer answered. I can just type in flash by the way, and then I can ask whatever I want about the project, and it will essentially spin up a different version of Claude, answer my question without stopping the current execution. Where I really use this to make it practical is, let's say I'm writing an application and it's working on a feature. I want to ask it about something I did previously. Well, I don't want to stop what it's doing or wait until it's done with what it's doing because I don't want to go back to that conversation. I simply need to remember something. Then I will use a slash by the way, ask my question, and it'll answer me while still building the feature I was working on originally. So slash by the way is probably one of the most used ones. If you want to open up the settings tab, this is where I would go into config. So if I remove this and I do slash config, this will open up the settings for Claude, and here you can search. You can also turn on or off settings, and this is super helpful, especially when you want to get super custom with Claude. In this case, a lot of these you don't really have to turn on or off, just leave it as is. However, if you want to change something, you do just slash config and you can change a lot of this stuff. One of the other commands that I use tremendously is the effort command, and what effort does is essentially it dictates what level of thinking your model will use. So if I do slash effort, then I can simply pick which one I want to use, right? Medium, low, high. I usually leave it on max, and if I really want to go, I can go smarter, which I'm sure just burns through tokens. That also has this cool animation, but I'm just going to stick with max for now. And obviously, the more tokens you use or the more effort you put in, the smaller responses. However, your token consumption is also going to skyrocket. So that's one thing to keep in the back of your mind. Another command that I see people use quite often, I don't use it as much. However, if speed is of the importance, let's say you're in a presentation and you're waiting on a command to actually go through, you're waiting on Claude to generate, well, you can just do slash fast and it'll toggle fast mode. Here's the thing though, fast will consume your tokens like no other. It'll also wrap your build quite a bit. So be very careful when you use fast. I would only use this if you have people actively waiting for your generation to finish. It essentially just makes your responses even faster. If you're waiting on a big project and it needs, sticking for quite a while and you're in a room full of people, you probably don't want them sitting there for 5 minutes because they're going to get bored. Here's another one that I use tremendously, and this actually happened to me just the other day. I wish I knew what this command was back then. Let's say you're actually in a session with Claude and then you accidentally close the session. Super annoying. Well, what do? So what you can do is if I open Claude back up, I'm going to do slash resume. It's going to show you all of the previous conversations. And for example, this one, I can see the one that I just had earlier, Claude-code-slash-commands. If I open this back, you can see this is the one we were just doing a few seconds ago. Press back on hi there. I'm now back on my session that I was using earlier. This is probably one of the most helpful ones. It's essentially your backup in case your computer closes, your battery dies, whatever it is, you don't lose this information. Another big one that I use quite a bit is slash skills. These are just all of your available skills. If you use Claude for any amount of time, you probably have some skills. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm probably gonna have a video coming out about skills and how to use them, but essentially this is where all of your skills, and you can also see how many tokens they take, etc. And there are some more sort of gimmicky one, like you have slash theme, which you can use as well. So you want light mode, dark mode, super light mode, completely up to you. Now those are just the slash commands that I use on a daily basis. I'm not gonna go through the entire list. There's like 100 and something prompting of them. Obviously, the document is available to see the rest of them, and you can also just do slash and you'll see every single one here. And I also want to show you something, which is you can have custom commands. That's what I'm going to show you how to do right now. So let's say I want to make a custom command. Probably the easiest way to do that is just to tell Claude to make you a custom command with whatever you want this command to do. And the way to visualize this is a custom command will be ran whenever it is invoked. So for example, let's say that I had a command to help me come up with a title. Well, here's what that command would look like. I want you to make me a custom command as a YouTube title generator. The input is going to be my YouTube transcript, and the output is actually going to be a suggested title or a few suggested titles. And I want you to make this a custom command or custom slash command that I can invoke whenever needed. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to press enter. Now I'm going to let it do its thing, do its magic, and it will create me a custom slash command. 5 minutes later, it came back and asked, how should slash YouTube title handle the titles each time? Shortlist plus Y, just the first one, or shortlist and no notes? I'm going to go with number 1. I'm going to let it go back to what it needs to do. And just like that, about 5 minutes and 40 seconds later, I got this back. So let me open this back up. And it says easy one to build, a genuinely useful tool. These are just the questions we answered earlier. And now it looks like it made a slash YouTube dash title. So if I do slash YouTube dash title, I can now see that this is here. And what I can do, I'm actually going to put the transcript in as well. So I don't actually have a transcript for this, but the video is going to be about how to use slash commands in Claude Code and which ones are actually useful, which ones are not, and essentially more like a practical list for slash commands. And I'm going to press enter. And now it's going to essentially inject the prompt that was in the YouTube's dash title for this video. Then after it ran for just a few seconds, then it gave me quick flag. You gave me the premise, not transcript. It's fun. These are pre-production title ideas built on the most honest curation. I only used one Claude Code command. Big mistake. Amazing. I might use this title for this video. I run my agency in Claude Code and I miss these. Sure, the Claude Code commands even I didn't use there. So as you can see here, I didn't have to tell it about who I am because I never told it I only use one Claude Code command. It got that from the Claude.md file that I had earlier about when I was preparing this video. So it's actually aware of me while it's using this skill, which is super helpful to me. So that's a bit about slash commands. And there's so much more I could go into about slash commands. If you're serious about learning Claude Code and want to go way further into slash commands, we actually run, me and my business partner, Mark, one of the biggest AI communities on school with over 1,400 people who are all learning AI. We actually have a living Claude Code course, which will be the first link in the description. I will hopefully see you in there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.